All right. Welcome, everyone, and good morning. And I think we can start. My name is Lerato Mashego. For today, I'll be MC. So I just want to welcome you to the IIBA Professional Development Day for 2024. Our theme is Ignite Business Analysis Excellence. We've got a lineup of wonderful, excellent speakers that are going to blow your mind away. So before we get into the program, I just want to set some ground rules that will help us to have a smooth running program. So firstly, please be on mute. There will be a slot for question and answers, and we'll make use of a chat box to air our questions, and our team will ensure that the speakers receive your questions. Secondly, I think if you've got any questions around the presentation packs, we will be sharing them. Please do also note that the session is recorded. We will be uploading it on our IIBA South Africa YouTube channel. We will also post announcements on the chat, but also we will announce at the end of the event. So please do stay put for that. So now we are getting into the program. I would like to introduce to you our head of programs, Morongwa Kholekanye, who will give us the purpose of the day, and she will be followed by our chapter president, Tshepo Majida. Over to you, Morongwa.
Thanks, Lerato. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're all excited to be here. So like how Lerato has said, my name is Morongwa Kholekanye, and I am the head of programs for IIBA South Africa. It is honestly a great pleasure to welcome you all to this year's Professional Development Day that is hosted by IIBA South Africa. And this chapter is currently recognized as the best chapter in the world. So welcome, guys. As the head of programs, I'm honestly thrilled to see such a vibrant gathering of professionals who are as passionate about business analysis as you are. So happy to see you all. I can see the numbers are still growing. So it's so exciting. So our theme for today is Igniting Business Analysis Excellence. This theme is not just a slogan. It is a call to action. It challenges all of us to elevate our practices, inspire innovation, and drive impactful changes within our organizations. Business analysis is really at the heart of successful business and project, and it is our role to ensure that we continuously improve and adapt in a rapidly changing environment. Today's event is designed to fill your professional journey. We have put together a remarkable lineup, like how Lerato has said, a lineup of speakers from diverse industries who will share their insights, experiences, and strategies for excellence. These thought leaders are here to inspire us and to ignite that spark of curiosity and that drive that pushes us to go beyond the ordinary. So the purpose of today really is in threefold. That's how I see it. So firstly, it's all about learning and growth. I believe we are all here to learn. Business analysis is a dynamic field and continuous learning is essential. So today's session will cover a range of topics, like I said, that will reflect the latest trends and best practices, whether it's mastering new techniques or understanding emerging technologies or honing leadership skills. There's something here for everyone. Secondly, it's all about networking and collaboration. And one of the most valuable aspects of events like these is the opportunity to connect with fellow professionals. Networking is not just about exchanging business cards. It's also about building relationships, sharing knowledge, and collaborating on ideas that can drive our industry forward. So I encourage you all on this call to engage with each other even after the event. Throughout the session, I'll encourage you to ask questions and share your experiences where possible by posting comments. And lastly, it's really about inspiration and motivation. We want to leave today feeling inspired. The stories you will hear, I believe they will help us with that. A lot of people would have overcome challenges, and the successes achieved will serve as a reminder of what is possible to all of us. Let these stories ignite your passion and commitment to excellence in business analysis. As we embark on this day of learning and growth, guys, let us remember that the journey to excellence is continuous. We continuously need to invest in ourselves. It requires dedication, curiosity, and a willingness to embrace the change. We are here to support each other on this journey, and I'm confident that the event will provide you with the tools, insights, and inspiration to ignite your own path to excellence. So I just wanted to really thank you once again for being here, and I look forward to the day of enriching experiences and meaningful connections. But before I end, I would also like to thank the team that put this event together. You've got Lerato Mashiho, who's the product owner for this portfolio, but also the MC for today. We've got Dudu Zile Kamande, Itumeleng on the program. And I would also like to thank the president, the branding team, and the finance for all the support that they gave us throughout this journey. Enjoy the day, and let's ignite. Oh gosh, here we go. Tag Christy. Really, guys, as our theme say, let's ignite business analysis excellence together. Thank you so much. Over to you, Larato.
Thank you, Morongwa. That is really nice, and I hope everybody is feeling comfortable. I would like to then introduce our keynote speaker. This is Shabana. In 2008, Shabana began her journey at Investec as a software developer, eventually rising to become CIO. Her career insights include receiving Investec Star Awards in 2014 for exceptional software development and advancing through various leadership roles in architecture and software development. Shabana is dedicated to creating a culture of success and growth within her teams, inspired by the multiplier leadership approach. Outside of work, she enjoys playing chess with her son, blending leadership skills with personal interest. Her career is marked by continuous learning, a great sense of humor, and a commitment to empowering others and leaving positive legacy. So before we admit Shabana, just on a lighter note, I asked ChatGPT, why does Shabana teach her son a game of chess? It was a very interesting response, which said, so that he can finally understand the importance of thinking a few moves ahead, both in games and in coding. Shabana, please take us away. We can't wait to hear your inspirations.
Thank you so much, Lerato. That was amazing. I think firstly, I want to say good morning to everyone. A special thank you to IIBA South Africa and Morongwa. I am truly humbled to be given the opportunity to be able to speak today. My slides are up, so I just want to take you through the first slide. So while it's moving, it's a bit delayed on my side. Okay, perfect. I want to draw your attention to the video that's playing. That doesn't have any sound right now because it doesn't need it, but pay attention to the fish and the birds and how they're responding to what is happening around them and how they're shifting in cohesion. While I talk to you about a complex adaptive system, the model that is adjacent to this video by Louis Gardner in an article, and just one simple rule as a takeaway to ignite your spark, as Morongwa has actually described earlier when she started. So basically, what is a complex adaptive system? It's also known as a CAS, and it can be referred to as multiple ecosystems interacting with each other. There's multiple agents, there's mutual benefit, which are called feedback loops, and there's the responsiveness to change that is happening in this ecosystem or outside this ecosystem. There's a simple example that's available between a garden and forest next to each other to be able to describe this. There's no linear relationship, excuse me, between a garden and a forest. Actually, there's interaction between multiple agents in a garden and forest. And the agents, to simplify what it means, is there's agents like earthworms, bees, butterflies, flowers, plants, the forests. They're all connected with one another. The agents don't work alone in isolation of each other in this complex adaptive system, which hosts multiple ecosystems. They actually thrive together with mutual benefit. And the emergent behavior is the fact that it sustains itself because of the mutual relationship that exists, or the feedback loops. So there's a mutual relationship between earthworms and the ground, between pollinators and flowers are other examples. The resilience is between these ecosystems. For example, it maintains its structure and a function. If it has heavy rains, the forest would absorb the heavy rain so the flowers don't actually get flooded or drowned, as an example. So they're very responsive, adaptive, and learn from the changes that happen around them. This is one way to describe a complex adaptive system, using multiple ecosystems as an example. Another way that I'll describe it is it's also referred to as a superorganism, where it's made up of hundreds and thousands of organisms that act like a single organism. There's a really good article that shows the ebbs and flows of the superorganism by Derek and Laura Cabrera. And the example here that you've just seen are fish and birds. And there are other examples using ant colonies as well. So they actually respond as a collective. You would think that in this example, that when the eel comes in or a seal comes in, that they're responding in the direction of a command and control, being a leader or an alpha bird or an alpha fish. But actually, there is no command and control. It's a self-organized responsive mechanism based on simple rules, just simple rules. That's happening, that's responding to what's happening locally around them. So the 3 simple rules in this example was, for the fish were responding, was stay together, don't crash into each other, and avoid predators and obstacles. In the same way, the birds are responding. So it's actually collective dynamics that exist here. And to be resilient in this complex adaptive system that's being disturbed by many things. Now, it allows you to be resilient, it allows you to adapt, it allows you to be robust, and it allows you to be continuously intelligent in a world that's constantly adjusting. Why am I telling you all of this? So I just explained complex adaptive system. Why am I telling you this? Because I'm telling you this because your world is constantly changing. We all exist in a complex adaptive system, and the rate of change around us and inside our ecosystems is constantly changing. And a perfect example is the exponential rate of change of technology that we are being received by at the moment. Even as a technologist, it's pretty hard. So what complex adaptive systems help us do is look at the world in a different way. So you've got to think about your collective system. The interaction with connected ecosystems, like your team interacting with clients, with business partners, with other teams for execution, with many stakeholders. You have multiple demands trying to drive a rapidly changing business towards its direction and strategic direction and objectives. You're trying to ideate with new client segment strategies that differentiate you. At the same time, you have this ecosystem evolving, and the buzzword of today is generative AI. Tomorrow, it could be something else. It could be as quickly as receiving quantum computing, as an example. But how are you responding to the dynamic around you is the question. Are you organized? Are you in a chaos state? Or are you in a self-organized state? Are you resilient and adapting to the changes that you're being received by? And what are the simple rules? I don't know the answer to the questions. You know the answer to the question, but I have one simple rule for you to take away, and that is, I will talk about it in the integration of the human network with co-intelligence. So if we play this video.
I always say to the guys, when you touch him, on that mind, he must already understand what's coming his way. Whether it's by feeling or grabbing a shirt or grabbing a piece of meat or skin, I don't care. As long as I can feel it. We do live scrums. I really don't believe in machines because I've never scrum against a machine in my life on a field in a game. They never bring a machine up, eh? Do they?
Almost the 800 to 900 kilogram pack against the same, and in a short space there's an acceleration and someone has to take the impact.
I don't think it's a place where you want to be, especially with the characters that we have.
So I'm not asking you in this video to play rugby or grab someone's flesh. So let's put that out there first. What I do want you to do is think about the context of your role in the context of a human network. There's a level of simplicity that underlies complexity that you bring. And I want to stress that you bring. And like Dan Human here, he actually says, you don't scrum against machines in the field. In the same way, the impact you want to make is not about delivering or designing for machines to consume your features, but for clients, a physical being to experience what you've designed and eventually built. So someone could get smart and tell me and argue that robotic process automation is to deliver for machines to automate processes, but that is still for human convenience. I'm happy to have that debate. Also, just like the Scrum in the video, which is an interlocking network of people to succeed, in your role, there are multiple independent connections, just like a complex adaptive system, from whom you collect, aggregate, and understand the client, the business, the regulator, their needs, their asks, the direction, and a collective responsibility. So I think this human network of agents is vital, and you are the conduit. And that is the importance around the human network. So we now integrate this human network with co-intelligence to create an emergent behavior of acceleration that will drive a new shape of a new organization. The dynamics in your ecosystem is changing with artificial intelligence. And you can see that I'm referring to a complex adaptive system context, agents, collective dynamics, ecosystems, and a collective organism. It's changing with artificial intelligence. When you bring collective actions, decisions, and responses from your human network of interactions and integrate it with AI, you will bring depth to your function and your skill. And you'll get the outcome of pace and quality, which is under the banner of acceleration. So now that's all fluffy talk, very funky words, but let's give you a few examples. Have you ever thought about auto-deriving your prioritization lists from on your backlog using artificial intelligence on insights? So you could get insights on your risk events and then auto-derive your prioritization. You could get insights on your client's most commonly used features that needs to be advanced and auto-derive your prioritization from your backlog. You could, another example was you could record all your agents' responses and you could take those responses, record it, analyze it, find out what are the critical needs and the themes using Copilot as an example. A third example is you could use an assistant to be able to inform new client segment strategies by training the model with South African context collection of industry trends together with your own clients' behavioral patterns. You could bring that together and train this AI assistant to come up with, okay, what could be a potential new client segment strategies based on the industry and your own client's behavior. And the last one I'll give you an example around is the GPT model. So I've already done this, by the way. I gave it a role. I asked it, I said, your role is to be a business analyst. Can you write me, because I'm very passionate about the carbon footprint as well, because I know GPT produces a high carbon footprint, but there are mechanisms to be able to reduce that. However, I gave it a role. I said, your role is to be a business analyst. Please, I have a problem statement around the carbon footprint. I want to be able to create a view around my requirements. Please write me an epic and the user stories behind it. And it did. It wrote me the epic, it wrote me the user stories, it wrote me the technical requirements, it wrote me the measurables, it wrote me everything that I need as a base. But I still have to validate that. So my role is now evolving to be able to validate whether this is true, whether it's not, etc. as part of that. But that's a fourth example. So my message to you is don't let your personal share value drop or even remain constant. So adapt with intention in order to remain relevant and resilient in a system that is exponentially evolving. With just the one simple rule in the context of a complex adaptive system that's continuously changing of integrating your human network with co-intelligence without compromising the structures or function of your current ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you, Shabana. That was really, really inspiring, informative. I don't think we get to think about how complex a system we are all the time. For our audience, this is a moment for you to ask questions to Shabana. Please put them on the chat box, and we will add them to Shabana so that she can respond accordingly. Do we have any questions at the moment, team, for Shabana?
Yes, Raf said you want to ask something?
Brilliant. Thank you, and thanks for the great talk and inspiration, Shabana. My question, not to detract from your main topic, is actually about the chess. Out of interest, my 10-year-old beats me at speed chess, but I beat him when I've taught him how to play and I have time to think. And for me, that's kind of a sign of how the youth operate a lot faster than us. They're used to short, sharp engagements. But no, just actually was a comment. How old is your kid, and are they beating you at chess?
So my son is 6. I started teaching him at 4. But what I've done is I've merged, just like how I've integrated here the human network with co-intelligence, I've actually merged training him physically with me to play me a physical being, together with giving him the app to be able to learn, because there's some things that I won't be able to do with him versus that. So it gives him the speed together with the quality, both at the same time from different mediums. So he's 6. And he does really well. He hasn't beaten me yet. I still haven't beaten my dad. So we keep the tradition going. And well done for your son beating you.
Thank you. It's irritating, but great to see.
Okay, do we have any more questions to do?
No, not anything, not yet.
All right. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know, out of excitement, I guess, I have a moomish this morning. I skipped our president, so I would like to welcome him before we actually move into the program. So, Mr. President, Tshepo Madila, over to you.
Thank you so much. And good morning to everybody. It's great to see some of the people that I really know and admire on the call, and some who are going to be speaking, and just the exciting discussion that we just had right now from our keynote, Shabana. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I have a 20 minutes presentation at best that I want to share. Just tell me if you can see it, Lerato, on your side.
Yes, it's showing.
Okay, good. All right. Once again, good morning, and thank you so much, guys, for being on the call today. So why professional development, and why the IIBA, and why do we care? So as the premier professional association for everything business analysis, not just locally, but internationally, we are duty bound to always think about how do we keep raising the standards of how our professionals should be performing to help business achieve better outcomes. That's all we actually worry about. So everything else, really, it's just about propping up that proposition. So if you take away professional development from our portfolio as the IIBA, we have no other mandate, because our mission is to globally, locally, at an individual, at a corporate, at an academia, as well as at those who are training providers to ensure that the way that we teach, we share, we grow the profession of business analysts, it's keeping abreast with the changing landscape of how business and humanity is moving. So customer centricity, business objectives, personal development. So that troika is what we're always looking at. So in front of you, you will see what we call almost like the wheel of fortune, but basically it's just talking about what are the roles that a business analyst should be able to do today. As you can see, it's a 2022 version, but also where are we starting to see new changes in terms of where else we need to start improving. If you look closely, you won't see anything that talks to AI, but you will see a lot of some of the trends that have been happening over the past decades. Obviously, the acceleration in terms of data as the new oil, cybersecurity as front and center in the new e-commerce economy, Agile as a framework for delivering better, faster quality, product ownership, customer centricity, tactical from how organization run to operational process efficiency to strategic. How do we understand the as is to go to a future desired? So as you can see, this just shows you just a minimal scope of what we believe that the people who are on the line as business analysts can actually become, should become, and must never be shy to actually aspire to. So today, obviously, as our keynote has already alluded, in a system that works, that powered by technology, AI, machine learning, and all these other things, the role of the business analyst will need to change. And the way that we imagine how the business analyst needs to be also will need to change. So this will definitely grow probably in the next year or two to show the various landscape on how we integrate, as Shabana was saying, the core intelligence to co-create a future that is beautiful, but also that is rewarding, and that also enforces our belief that professional development, it's everybody's business. It's every business analyst business. It's every professional association's business, and definitely it will continue being one of the IIBA's business. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us. What it tells us is that you care about your professional development, not only because the speakers on our programs are really, really great people, but because you know that by being in a community that shares and cares, you will continue to grow and your future will be bright. Thank you so much, Lerato, and back to you.
Thank you, Mr. President. With those words, it's a perfect fit for us to introduce our speaker who's going to speak on being a holistic BA. Ladies and gentlemen, please await your presentation from Raphael. Raphael is a seasoned digital strategist with over 30 years experience in guiding clients through developing bespoke digital strategies, validating product concepts, and leading successful digital initiatives. He's a head at IQ Business for Experience Innovation Division, and he plays a crucial role in driving client success. He excels in addressing digital experiences challenges with their ecosystems by leveraging innovation thinking, strategic thinking, and planning, and executing excellence to deliver transformative outcomes. I think at this moment, we can just open our hearts, open our minds for Raphael to give us his presentation. Over to you, Raphael.
Thank you so much for that mouthful of an intro. I appreciate it. And as Shabana said, thank you so much, Tsepo Morongwe, Lerato, and team for the opportunity to share a couple of insights with you. I really enjoyed the first talk, and I think it does build quite nicely. And it is, as you say, great to see so many people wanting to ignite and become inspired. Tsepo, the team will tell you I had a chuckle at saying, how's Tsepo going to get it done in 7 minutes? But you did amazingly. I think the joke's going to be on me. I have 20, and I think, I can sometimes waffle on. So thanks so much for the intro. I'm here to talk about how you think. Specifically, the ask was around design and systems thinking. And I'm going to start by saying that how you think doesn't matter. If you can't articulate that effectively, I think is the main message. So if you can't tell a good story and present your thoughts in a logical, ordered manner, what you might find is that it didn't really matter how good the analysis was, how good the synthesis was. So that's like, I guess, a starting premise. But having said that, if you can tell a good story, how you think will impact how good that story is and how you're able to transfer the information you need, whether it's about a problem you want to solve or a solution you're trying to make sure gets implemented. Will it matter? Will it be understood? Will it drive the desired change that you intend, given that you were given a task to analyze and solve and solution for something? So I think that's kind of the beginning of it. And I want you to have a think back. I think as analysts, we all have a story like this, whether it was a design that you wireframe that didn't get implemented the way you thought it should, whether it was some business rules or logic that didn't land in the system that you were helping to fix. Have a think about it, and I'm not going to ask you to say anything about it, but just keep that as your first concrete example of why thinking and telling the story together are really what needs to happen for change to happen. And I think that kind of brings me into the concept of design and systems thinking, but also what I want to share with you today around storytelling. Now, you'll see I'm introducing myself, and it's just been done. So I'm not so old that I've forgotten the order of events. There's a specific point I want to make here, is that as much as IQ's been helping organizations make sense of things through our business analysis capability for many, many years, as Lerato introduced me, I'm not in the business analysis team. In fact, I drive digital transformation. I drive experience innovation. I consider myself a design and digital strategist. But what the market sees me as, no matter how much I add skills to my LinkedIn profile, what my market, my clients, my peers, my colleagues recognize me for, what always surfaces and bubbles up to the top is business analysis. And it used to irritate me until after COVID and the economic kind of I guess, impact that we are all trying to work through as a country, as businesses, as individuals, as families. I realized that the world is still trying to make sense of things, and that is fundamentally what analysis is about. And so I went from being irritated about it to being proud of it, and I guess to be humbled and honored as you were, Shabana, to be invited to kind of share my perspectives. So I guess the message there is don't get irritated if you're trying to build your skills and your LinkedIn profile around a different topic. Business analysis at its heart is what's going to help drive change in our businesses, our families, our country. Right. So if my message is that you need to tell a good story, then the good news is there is a science. If you don't feel like you can, there's a number of sciences about good storytelling. You need to find yours, and you need to find one that works for you. I personally love Missing Link. Richard Holland's got a really good action framework, a strategy that helps you to kind of tell your story in a way that's impactful, psychologically based. And it starts with a framework called care, believe, know, and do. Right? So give your audience a reason to care about what you're going to talk about. Give them a reason to believe you. Then tell them what you want them to know, and then tell them what they need to do. And I found that really useful. And if you are leaning forward and wondering what's coming next in what I'm going to tell you, then it's starting to work. to look back for 10 seconds. What I started this talk with was saying, I'm here to help you learn how to think. And then the first thing I told you is it doesn't matter how you think. That was intended to make you go, why? Oh, okay, that doesn't make sense. But let me, if it doesn't matter how I think, why should I listen to this, right? So why should I care to even listen? I then shared that you should think about a misunderstood deliverable, something to make it concrete and real for you. And that kind of often, gets our brain into a mode that's ready to accept something on a practical basis. I love, Shabana, that you took the theory and you made it practical with examples. I think that's a key way. The third message was introducing myself again as a business analyst, really just to connect the dot between the fact that I understand business analysis enough, even though I'm not an expert like many of you are and will be as you ignite your careers, as Tepo Morongwe and team are going to make sure you do. But that you can believe me, right? There's a reason that I understand what I'm about to tell you. And then I said, everyone can tell stories, and I'm starting to share some tips just to inspire you to find a storytelling mechanism that will work for you. So that's kind of an example flow. And I think it's useful. There are links. This will be shared. And I urge you to watch that framework of care, believe, know, and do. Secondly, there's 3 reasons why to use the pyramid principle and the power of 3 to presenting your work. I've heard it throughout the introductions, Morongwe, yours, in terms of we had to learn, we had to network, we had to inspire and motivate each other. I heard it in terms of Tsepo, your overview as well. The thing about presenting using kind of top-down communication and the power of 3 is scientific too. I'll tell you why. 3 reasons. So 3 is the smallest number of data that is needed to make a pattern, right? So if this is data point 1 and this is data point 2, we can't make a pattern until the next one arrives. Is this going to be an upward line, or am I going to put the 3rd data point over here and we've got the beginning of a downward trend, right? So the power of, and our brains release dopamine when they recognize patterns. So it's addictive to make patterns. Secondly, consulting firms, business analysts around the world use this idea of top-down communication since it's released by Barbara Minto as part of McKinsey's work many, many years ago. And the idea is to really start with the assertion and then provide the rationale and evidence. And the third reason is we'll often lose our audience if we start with what did we do? Now think about this in the way we think often works bottom up. We have to delve into detail and context and problems. And then when we tell the story about what it is we recommend it gets done, we often start there. So I did this, I found the following in the system. There was a bug. I had done the following 3 steps to replicate it. A lot of detail and reasons, and here's why you need to solve it, and here's how to solve it. Where, in fact, even though you think bottom up, the best way to explain the change you need, whether it's verbally or in documents, is give them a reason to care. So the bug I found is costing us money. We're losing clients because they can't register, for example. I have a recommendation on fixing the validation on a field. I have 3 reasons or arguments for why that matters, and here's the detail. So I had a tab open when I did it, and when I had the tab closed, it didn't happen. Those are the details that often we start with, and we've lost our audience as we go. I would urge you to read the pyramid principle in terms of two reasons. It helps you learn to think up and tell stories downwards, but also really gives you a solid understanding of this power of 3 and why our brains work that way. All right, so that's storytelling, but I'm here to talk design thinking and systems thinking. So the first thing I'll say about them is that they are great, but they're not MECE. And as much as LinkedIn wants me to be a business analyst, I'm a consultant, right? So MECE is about, they're not mutually exclusive, not completely separate to each other, and also not collectively exhaustive. And what you'll know as an analyst, I'm sure, is that MECE is a really good way to understand and group information is in separate but exhaustive and comprehensive arguments and logic. Right, so they are great. Systems thinking is about looking at a system as a whole, the items within that system and the connections and relationships between them. Design thinking is more human-centered. But you can't separate the two. If you think about design thinking as the intersection of desirability for people or users or humans that you're trying to solve a problem for, the feasibility of the technologies you may need to use that, and the viability of the solution or the problem you're trying to solve. You can't talk viability if you're not thinking in terms of a system. Your system could be a business. Your system could be a team, as Shabana said it. Your system could be a country. It could be a city. It could be a hospital. So they work together. They're not exclusive. But there are lots of other ways, and I would love to have added, complex adaptive systems to a framework here too, which I will do. But there's other ways to think that you need to use and combine. There are much more iconic pictures I could have used here, and in the deck that you'll get afterwards, you might think of systems thinking as the iceberg model. What's happened? What's the event? What are the patterns underneath it? What caused that to happen? And the tools you might use are things like behavior over time, or what caused this, a causal loop. But regardless, it's about the system as a whole. Where similarly, I could have used much more iconic representations of design thinking, the double diamond, starting with empathize and the flow. And the fact that it's non-linear and it can be complex and move backwards and forwards. But again, I think the outcome here is that as a holistic business analyst, you want to use really good ways of thinking to be able to position a problem so that people understand it, and to position and find solutions that make sense and solve problems. So they're great, but they're not completely separate. They're actually stronger together. I want to start with systems thinking, and just with a practical example too. This is a nice system thinking representation of a problem, which I'll give you the highlights of. I am watching my time, and Tsepo and I will have a side bet, I'm sure. But a systems thinker, if they were kind of really just following the systems thinking methods, if they wanted to talk about a problem around traffic in Hanoi in Vietnam, which had 4 million motorcycles across the whole country, and now has 4 million just in Hanoi, in one city, they would really have looked at a couple of things. So let's listen to the numbers. 4 million motorcycles in one city. There's an intersection specifically that is quite key to the city and to getting to work back and to events and home. Where the problem is generating a lot of people to be late and problems. The third thing I want to say is that the economic growth at the time the study was done was really high in Vietnam, and specifically was 9% in the last quarter of this year, but it was 8% for the year. What happened is that there were 4 million motorcycles, but cars started to get into the mix. All right. So that's systemic thinking. The economy is growing, more cars on the road. There's 4 million motorcycles. We've got traffic congestions, and businesses are suffering. All right. That is a systems thinking perspective. It's quite visual. It's not that it's not creative. It's just systems thinking rooted. I want to tell you that same story, but from a design thinking lens, a design thinking perspective, and then you'll see why I'm saying they're stronger together. So a design thinker would probably tell you that this is what 4 million motorcycles in Hanoi looks like, all right? And you start to think about, okay, the motorcycles have always been there, and now the cars are coming into play. Who are we solving for? People on the bikes, the new motorists, people who are commuting in alternative patterns, or someone trying to cross this road, all right? That's a design thinking view of 4 million motorcycles in Hanoi. Broadening this and maybe comparing it to another city with the same number, right? So Sao Paulo, Brazil's also got 4 million motorcycles. So similar numbers, but quite a different systemic reality in that the cars were there first, and then there was a slump, and the rise of motorcycles came. The other difference is that the drivers in Brazil are organized labor backed, right? So they're not traveling to work, they are working. And what you'll notice here is that the cars were there first, the bikes are having to make a plan. You would solve this problem very differently as a design thinker once you understand the humanity behind this. And if you were just looking at numbers and a bit of a zoomed out view, you might not spot that nuance. So the two together work really well. I want to take the design thinking that starts with empathy one step further and say that as an analyst, you would have to research too. And I've got a fun example of somebody who's done this in Hanoi. So I'm going to play a video, probably for about 3 minutes, 2 minutes maybe. There are a couple of fun messages in it, but it just shows you the perspective I'm trying to share around understanding this from a human perspective is important. So let me know if the sound plays. Otherwise, I'll issue.
Maybe today I'll just throw some lessons at you how to drive in Vietnam. Lesson number 1. Everybody in Vietnam drives like, oh, you can drive like this. Just expect everybody's trying to hit you. Cars are going to come out of nowhere. Scooters are going to come out of nowhere. People are going to come out of nowhere. Anything that can happen on the road will happen and will happen to you all the time. On top of everything else, you are going to be completely surrounded by scooters all the time. People driving scooters badly, people driving them fast, people driving them slow, people driving them with a ton of people driving them with a ton of animals loaded on them. You can see what's the craziest animal that is strapped to the back of the scooter. Hey, this is sick. This way I can tell what's happening in front of me. I can see any dangers, potholes coming up. Maybe if I'm looking for a specific store, all that is available right here. Oh, well, there's a bus. Good thing we called it over. Let's go with lesson number 2 here. There is no personal space. You know how if you're driving a bike at home, people kind of stay away from you a bit more, give you a little bit more braking room than a car here. Oh, we skipped ahead to lesson number 5. You just take a turn. You don't have to wait for it to open. Just turn in front of you. Vietnamese left, look at us. Look at us go. Oh, might as well go in the other lane, cut way across traffic. Yeah, this will.
Jumping forward.
You've ever seen, they drive up on the sidewalk. You can do that here. You can live out your fantasy. Just, yep. You can follow the leader. You can strike your own trail. You can do it. You don't need a pistol or badge. Look at us go. Look at us. Look at us. I don't need a badge. I don't need sirens.
All right. I think I hope point made is that kind of it's really difficult to experience that reality from numbers, from a document, without really kind of using the principle of design thinking and immersing yourself in the human shoes that you're trying to solve the problems for. Yeah, and if you do want to ride a motorcycle in an oil, you can live out your Hollywood dreams. I thought was why I wanted to skip forward to that part. If you've ever wanted to drive on the sidewalk, then that's one way to get to work on time. All right, so the final message, I guess, is just that I hope this has shown you that design thinking and systems thinking are stronger together, hopefully as strong as the powerful brand Stronger Together has been for our country, for our Springboks. I think some of our sportsmen have built on and created even further, but bringing things together that make sense are really important. What I want to close out on is what to do. I'm not even going to hide the framework I'm using for you. What to do, what I want you to do. For me, the first thing is combine human-centered thinking, combine system-centered thinking, combine any thinking you can. We do it a lot. I'm not going to go through this all, but most of the work we do when we do digital transformation is about thinking. It's about strategizing. It's about making better decisions before you rush off, change operating models and get busy spending a lot of money doing transformational work. So we do that a lot. The second is communicate. Get really good at storytelling. Think bottom up, but describe bottom down, top down. It really helps you to make a point and then support it with arguments and use the power of 3. 3 arguments will always kind of connect dots and form patterns. And finally, connect. I'd love for those of you on the call, the speakers, the panelists, to connect with me on LinkedIn. As we move into questions now, I will leave that scan up. What I'd love to see is that the framework works in terms of storytelling, and that I don't see a lot of cameras on, but I was hoping to see cameras kind of connecting on that. If you scan that, you'll connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear if this has worked for you in the past, if you already do this. And if you try these techniques and they work or they don't, let's engage. Let's engage on LinkedIn. Let's connect. I'd love to help to ignite, inspire, and help you grow your careers. So thank you. That is it. I did say to Marongwa that as we go to questions, I'll try this new fancy feature and replace my pink face avatar with my actual face. So here we are. Any questions? I'd love to engage.
Yes, Ref, there is a question for you on the line. It says, if you could give me one book to read right now, which would it be?
Yeah, I'll stick with the pyramid principle by Barbara Minter. It literally changed my life as a consultant. I was battling to get executives to drive change, and what I realized was I was too caught up in the reasons and the rationale and the evidence and the problems I was finding, as opposed to really quickly getting to the message. Here's what we need to do. And as soon as the why question comes up, you're naturally engaging in you have open dialogue into your rationale, and once you have dialogue in your rationale, you can start to present your evidence. What I find is that it's changed my life in terms of communicating, and I'd argue it would change anyone's. So yeah, that would be the book I'd recommend now. It is a third edition. It's been refreshed a little. It was written a very long time ago. It was mostly about writing. It has been refreshed to kind of be a little bit more modern, but the principles stand.
Oh, thank you, Ref. I'm not seeing any questions.
I'm going to look eagerly on LinkedIn to see if my call to action worked and how good Rich Mulholland's framework is to drive action if my request was to connect on LinkedIn. So, but thank you very much again for the opportunity.
Yeah, there is a comment from Nasima. Great presentation, Ref. We are starting the journey of design thinking in our space at ABSA. Good insights today. We'll wait to get the deck to go through. So there's your client, Ref. Maybe to some of them. Masintle has a question for you, Ref.
Sure.
Morning. Thank you so much for this presentation. So I definitely agree, like with the point that you made about design thinking. I've worked in an organization where the main methodology that was used was design thinking, and the results have been great because users always get what they need, and the business continues to grow. But when working in an environment that is not exposed to design thinking, that doesn't understand those types of agile methodologies that are user focused, and they use a waterfall approach, how do you then introduce this methodology, considering that you are a business analyst that doesn't get exposed to senior executives that make decisions about what strategic moves are we going to be making in the business, like being exposed to exco? How do you then influence an environment that is focused on hierarchy, so it's difficult to get your message across to the right stakeholders, but you can see the power of design thinking and how it could benefit the business?
Yeah, great
Thank
question. And this is true of many crafts, whether it's design or design thinking or analysis or approaches. How do you show the value of it? The way that you get to talk to the executive is to make sure that the value is understood and the problem and the impact of not doing it is understood. So if you truly believe that, what I'd suggest is that you arm, if it's very hierarchical where you work, then arm your immediate team lead, your leader, your network there to tell that story and to say, if we use design thinking, this will be the benefits, and then present the evidence for it. But yeah, most movements like this have to be ignited, and you have to prove some value. So, happy to kind of connect offline and share a few perspectives. But I mean, Shabana, just, you might want to also weigh in here. As leaders in businesses, we've got to kind of make sure that our teams are heard. And if they believe strongly that something will work and we're not doing it that way, we have to have mechanisms to allow that information to flow at us. So yeah, I know there's a short time for question and answers and other speakers, but I'd love to connect offline and see how I can help you to make that journey more possible. Prove value and explain the story concretely and in a short way will help a lot.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, in the interest of time, I just want to check. I think I can also state that if you feel that you are lazy to type it out, maybe you can ask to put your hand up so that we can put you on and then you can pose your question to Raphael. But great presentation, Raphael. You know, actually, as I was about to introduce you, I had a lousy joke for you also, but then I thought I'm going to eat up in your time. And it was going to say, why did the customer call the tech support during their company's digital transformation? And that funny answer is because they wanted to reboot their mindset, which is what I think is a lovely thing you did for us here with the holistic and design thinking presentation.
Brilliant. Thanks, Laura.
Okay. I think if we do not have any questions, I will encourage everyone to still go ahead and put them on the chat. I will introduce our next speaker now. Our next speaker is, hang on, before I move to that, can I just confirm, Itu, are we not at break yet?
Yeah, the program is saying we need to get a break quick.
Yeah.
Resolvation.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please can we just take a 5-minute body break and then we'll come back to our next speaker and we'll introduce him at that time. Hello, hello, hello again. We are back. We are back to continue with our program. I hope everyone is back. You know, this platform is funny. I don't know where we see emojis. I would be asking you to show thumbs up if you are back. Maybe you can put it on the chat that you are back. Right. On that said, I would like to introduce our next speaker, which is Eric. Okay. So, Eric, just
Hi,
this.
hi, Loretta.
Sorry. Yeah, Eric, I also want to do justice to you. Don't worry. I've got a nice profile reading for you. So just a moment for me. Okay. So Eric is a senior business analyst known for his leadership in a BA mentoring community, offering both group sessions and individual mentoring to empower ambitious business analysts at various career stages. Colleagues value his integrity, organizational skills, and ability to foster teamwork and high standards. Eric excels in resolving complex issues, turning challenges into opportunities, and driving projects to successful outcomes. His experience spans working closely with clients, end users, internal teams to ensure strength and quality from project inception to completion. Now, that is our Eric. So Eric, I also have a dummy, light joke that I planned for you, and it goes like this. How does a mentor fix a broken light bulb? I don't want you to answer that, but the answer is by shedding some light on the actual situation. So Eric, thank you, and you can take us away.
Thank you, Loretta. Thank you for inviting me to come and be a speaker at this development day. I would like to have interaction with as many of you as I can, and so I would like to ask you if you feel comfortable to turn your video on. I have all of your names in front of me and some the pictures of those who have pictures. But if you feel comfortable to put your video on, that would be great so I can see you as well. And I'll be asking some questions during the presentation. Thank you for those who have put the video on. Thank you, Lorato. Shepo, Mrongwa. No, you haven't put your picture on. Dudu Sile, and Nazmira, Yasin, Bianca. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so I'll share my screen and start the presentation. So let me know if you can see share. Can you see the screen now? Great, thank you for that. So yeah, I'm a senior business analyst and I work for a company called UL Solutions as my full-time job. I also do BA mentoring on the side of work, so I'm working self-employed as a mentor. And if you want to find out more about what I offer and yeah, more details about that, you can go to bamentoring.com. And today, the title that I've been given here is BA Career Pathways. Yeah, I'll go to the next slide to talk about the agenda. So I have a limited time here today, and rather than delving a lot into details on the topics that I'm going to speak about. I want to try and make something that's complicated simple. That's something I think we as a business analyst are generally good at. We tend to, look at processes, businesses, different projects, products, different situations, and analyze them, break them down into different parts. But we can also explain complicated things in simple ways. So that's partly my aim today. And another aim I have today is to engage with you guys and for you to have some action points to take away from this presentation. So no matter where you are at in your career, I hope that you can take an action or more on the back of this. And like I said, I want to interact as well. So I have different questions that I have for you. So with that said, let's go to the first question. So there is a QR code if you want to use your phone to go to this question, or you can, I'll copy this and put it in the chat. So you can go to menti.com and that specific link in the chat to answer the question. Once I start to see that we have some responses, I'll also click there. So are you guys able to use the link? Okay, so
I've got it open on my side. I scanned it. It worked perfectly.
Oh, great.
Yeah. I think the link will also be
Sorry, I
shared
was
on
on
the
mute.
chat.
I'm still typing, yeah.
So at the moment I have two roles. I'm a software senior BA and BA mentor. I'll click submit.
Okay.
So what I'm asking here is, what exactly is your role title? And as business analyst, we go by many names. So I think part of the reason why I wanted to ask this question is to show that we don't have to have business analysts exactly in a role title to use our business analyst skills and be a business analyst, which I think is quite illustrative with this word cloud that we see. Someone is called senior business consultant, someone is called head of digital transformation, someone is called project portfolio analyst. So we have lots of different names, and that's good. Great. Thank you for all the responses. So this is quite an interesting exercise as well that I want you to have a think about. What does a business analyst do? And to make it really difficult for you guys, I'm going to ask you to think of what we do and only use 2 words to describe it. So put that in the chat when you've had to think about it. This is really, really boiling it down. And bear in mind, this type of question doesn't have a right or wrong answer because we do so much. So all answers are going to be right to some extent. I like these answers, yeah. Game changers, solve problems, clarify, translate, drive change, ask why. That's a good one. Communicate, ask. Communication is very important, I agree. Asking questions, very good. Perform magic, that's funny. That's a little bit ambiguous. Great. So solve problems. So I put this this post up as a contribution to an article on LinkedIn, and you can have a read about it. I'm not going to read through the whole thing that I wrote, but there was a lot of response to this one. So a lot of people resonate with what I've written here. So a suggestion that I'm going to make is that we investigate problems. And that goes against solutionizing, which is coming up with a solution without having analyzed the problem well enough. And like I said, there isn't the right and wrong answer here. So we do more than investigate problems, of course. But I think that summarizes what we do as business analysts very well. Great. Okay, so I'm going to tell my story about how I went from being a junior to a senior BA in over 3 years. So in October 2018, I had been working as a junior business analyst for about 6 months. And I had a promotion to a business analyst, or specifically it was called business systems analyst. Then in January 2019, I started working on a very complex project as a kind of semi-subject matter expert. So I had had an opportunity to become familiar with a certain part of the software offering that we offered to clients. And because I had that expertise, I had been asked to become part of this high-profile project that turned out to be not just very complex, but also have a very challenging client to deal with. If you probably met this type of person at work, the type of stakeholder that just keeps asking for more. And at the end of this, or towards the end of this project, one person working for the client bought us all a mug that said, "Just one more thing, please," something like that. So that was quite funny. But yeah, it was a good experience to work on this complex project. And then in November 2019, as I said, it was a very challenging client, and there was this person working for the client that was particularly challenging. And I think often, we tend to, well, I would like to think that as business analysts, we embrace situations where there are very challenging stakeholders, because often it can be those that are the most challenging that have the most valuable information for us to elicit. But it can be a challenge. It can be, you don't really want to go and speak with someone who is that challenging. But if you engage with it, and if you try your best to deal with them and get the best out of them, then that's gonna pay dividends. And then in March 2020, so this was about how many years I had been gone from a junior 1.5 years earlier. So I was determined to have a good end of the year review with my line manager. So I asked for feedback from a lot of colleagues. And I had looked up the difference between business systems analyst and senior business system analyst. And so I had worked specifically on how, like, actually working as a senior in my BA role and proved that actually I'm operating at a senior level, and provided evidence for that. And my line manager gave me good feedback, and the way they rated people in performance in that company was on a scale from 1 to 5. So if you get a 3 performance rating, that's average. If you've done something that wasn't quite good and you haven't necessarily improved from learning from that experience, then you maybe go down to a 2. If you get a 1, then you're probably going through disciplinary action and you might be in danger of losing your job. If you get a 4, then that's very good. You're showing exceptional proactivity and you're doing well, better than expected. And a 5 is, my line manager described it as, no one really gets a 5. He had never recommended someone for a 5 before, but he decided to recommend me for a 4 performance rating. And then during the calibration of that, I was downgraded from a 4 to a 3. And so I was quite disappointed with that at the time, but I was determined to continue to pursue progression in my company and continue to work hard on the project I was on. And then a year later, I did the same thing, prepared well for my end of year review. And this time, my line manager really wanted to do me justice. And so he, thank you for the question in the chats. I'll see if I can come back to that. So I again prepared as well as I could. And this time, my line manager actually recommended me for a 5 performance rating, 5 out of 5. And I became one of very few people in the company with a performance rating of 5 out of 5, which was unexpected and very encouraging to get. It had some financial benefits with it in terms of that I got a slightly larger portion of the bonus and a little bit higher salary increase. So not massive financial benefits, but it was very encouraging. It boosted my confidence levels, and yeah, so that was good. And then after having worked on getting this promotion for nearly 2 years, or about 2 years, I finally was promoted to a senior BA in October 2021. And then it was shortly after that I got a job offer for another company, and I started a new senior BA job that I'm still working in now. Great. So I'll see if I can answer the question.
Yes, hi Eric. The question for you, yes, you can answer, but it's from Lerato Mashiko. How can I as a consultant or contractor create a platform for a performance review with the management? Oh, I think I skipped others, but yes, that's the one. You can go.
I think as a consultant or contractor, it's a little bit more difficult to to have a, like, let's say, a performance review. I think in that type of role where you're looking to get better rewards or better opportunities, probably by working for other clients. So I would be thinking about how I can set myself up for delivering value to clients that are willing to potentially pay a higher day rate in that type of scenario. There was a question before that as well. When you were progressing in your career, did you negotiate the senior title change? I've been of the opinion that when a BA hits the 3-year mark, they progress to become intermediate. Am I projecting limiting beliefs? Okay, so I don't think this is necessarily about timing. It's more about what you're doing. So yeah, it's and you're touching on limiting beliefs, and I think that's a very crucial part as well. So what are you thinking about yourself? Do you see yourself as a senior BA? Do you see what you see yourself as? What do you think about yourself? Like what are you writing in your CV? What are you writing on your LinkedIn profile? How are you marketing yourself in that way? So I'll tell a quick story from earlier than 2018. In my first BA role, actually, I'll go to the next slide to tell the story. I'm going to share how my income has changed from 2017 to 2023.
Yes,
So,
and Eric, if it's okay with you, because I think, remember how we've planned it, how we've discussed it, maybe you can go through your presentation and then we'll take all the questions at the end.
Sure, I can do that.
Okay.
So I got an I got an offer from Experian for a junior BA role in March of 2018. Started that in April that year, and prior to getting that job, I was working as a graduate BA in a startup company, and I got that opportunity because my friends, or one friend who worked for that startup company, knew I was looking for work, and they approached me, and I started working for them on a contract basis a couple of days a week. And in that role, I had never been a business analyst before, and so I didn't really know what a business analyst, what they do. What does a business analyst do? And especially in a startup company, it was not any support structure around me at all to figure that question out. And so I just had to think of myself as a business analyst. I had to take initiative and find out, what does a business analyst do? How can I add value in this situation? And that caused me to position myself and think of myself as a business analyst, even though I didn't have much experience at that point. So I hope that answers that question. And I'm going to share my how my income has progressed between those years, and I'm going to share that as a success story to inspire you, and just to illustrate that as business analysts, we can definitely beat inflation, but also do much better than that. And yeah, I would like to see one or more of my mentees do better than this. Yeah, so and the way I'm measuring it is in percentage. So I'm starting at what I started to get paid, or what they offered me in Experian when I had that job offer. I negotiated 4.5% higher salary, so as a starting salary. So that's an encouragement that it's always worth considering negotiating the salary before you start a job. And then I had a promotion from junior to BA 6 months in, so that was another 5% increase. Then I had a 3.5% yearly increase, and then I had I was approached by a company that offered me a job that was much better paid, and Experian gave a counter offer to keep me. So then my salary for Experian increased by 20%. Then I had another 5% yearly increase, and then I had the promotion to senior BA, which gave me 5% salary increase. And at that point, I realized that other employers out there would be willing to pay me more than Experian was going to. So I had been applying for work in from around the summer of 2021. And then towards the end of 2021, I was offered a new job, and that had 82% salary increase there. And since then, I had a 5% bonus transfer increase and 5% yearly increase after that. From the spring 2023, my salary had increased by 200% since the start of 2018. So that gives you an example of what we can do as business analysts. Okay, so again, like I said earlier, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this, but what is the difference between a junior BA, mid-level BA, and a senior BA? I did a podcast episode on this with Tando Jacobs. His podcast is called Inside Business Analysis, and I think it's titled How to Become a Senior BA. And essentially, I was saying that the main difference between a senior BA compared with a mid-level and junior BA is that they are they take more responsibility for their workload. They require less help from their manager. They get on with their work. They are more autonomous and take on more responsibility. And essentially, that is the key difference for me. So if you want to move from the left to the right, those are some of the things I would encourage you to focus on. How can you become more autonomous? How can you manage your own workload better? And how can you take more responsibility? So I'm going to suggest 10 ways you can take steps towards a senior BA role or a more senior role than you're currently in. And bear in mind, this is a non-exhaustive list, but it is a list of 10 things that you can consider doing. And after I've gone through this list, I'm going to ask you another question, which is, what are you going to take away from this and work on from Monday onwards? And I would encourage you to pick 1, 2, 3 of these, because more than that would probably be too much to focus on at the same time. So think about which ones you want to work on here. One is to take on a larger or more complex project. Like I shared in my journey earlier, that helped me to position myself to learn faster, to take on more responsibility and be ultimately promoted and get a better salary. So that's something you can also talk about in interviews, that you've worked on a complex project or a product. So in Experian, I was in a project environment. In UL Solutions, I work in a product-focused environment with product roadmaps and more of an agile way of working. Yeah, so no matter which environment you're in, if you take on something that is larger or more complex, that's a great way of doing it. Another one that I also touched on in my story is to communicate well with a challenging stakeholder. I live and work in the UK, so I'm not sure if this is the same in South Africa, but a very common question, especially for a senior BA role, is tell us about a time when you dealt with a challenging stakeholder. So if you have done that well, then you have a good story to share in job interview situations. And you will have learned valuable lessons along the way. So similar to 1, work on solving a complex problem. Like I touched on earlier as well, I think I see investigating problems, getting to the root cause of what the problem is. So we're solving the right problem. It is key for us as business analysts. So put effort into that and demonstrate how you've added value in being part of solving that problem. Another one is that you can be proactive about is to initiate a business process improvement. So instead of just taking on the work that you are given, be on the lookout of how processes could be improved and suggest ways to improve things. Another one is to impart high-level business knowledge to others. So as business analysts, we are well positioned to understand our department that we work in, for example, or our business as a whole, because we talk with various stakeholders. We hear different perspectives. We're good at research and understanding processes, departments, businesses, products. And so if we can understand that and impart it to others, that adds value. So that's something I would encourage you to do. Something else you could do is to perform proxy responsibilities when opportunities arise. So what I mean by that is, in my time in Experian and in UL Solutions that I work for now, I have taken on product owner responsibilities, product manager responsibilities. I've acted as a team lead, hosted Agile ceremonies. I have acted as a tester. I've acted as a developer at times. And so if there are opportunities to take on more responsibility, I would encourage you to embrace them. And part of the reason for that is because you understand the other roles that you're working with better. I've also acted kind of like an architect at times to design solutions. So I would encourage you to take those opportunities when they arise. Another thing is to make sure you build trust and that you could potentially become a go-to person. So becoming very knowledgeable about certain aspects of the solution, solutions that you're working on, various different things. So it doesn't necessarily mean to become the SME and just get stuck in that role, but I mean become knowledgeable about something so that people will start coming to you to ask questions about it. That's a good thing to do. And like I touched on earlier, work on managing your own workload proactively. So your manager doesn't have to tell you what to do all the time. You're just getting on with the work, managing it well. And another thing you can do is to start mentoring other BAs in your work environment, or outside of work, like I do as well. Or you could build a BA practice group or guild. So you meet up once a week, once every 2 weeks, or once a month. And if something like that is not existing in your current workplace or in your maybe local area, you could initiate that. And last one, ask for feedback and act on it. So I saw earlier that your president has listened to feedback, but being shorter when speaking. So I can see that he's acted on feedback, and that's a great way to grow as well. So make sure you continue to ask for feedback. Look at it as a gift. So when you receive feedback, just say thank you, even if it's difficult to hear, and go away and think about it and think about what you could do. You don't always have to act on feedback, but if it's good, then make sure you do. That's another way of growing trust as well, increasing trust in your working relationships. So let's do another question. Which of these 10 ways will you action? And I'll copy the link again into the chat, and I'll go back to that page so you can see the 10 options. I think you have, I'll go to the next question. So I think you have the 10 options there as well. So pick 1, 2, or 3. Great, thank you for the feedback in the chat. Pick 1, 2, or 3 of these ways that you will action. And I would encourage you to do more than just answer this question on the back of this call, or maybe already start to draft down how are you going to act on these? What is your plan? What goals will you set yourself? Make smart goals. Think about how you can do this. So select 1, 2, 3 of these, press submit on the Mentimeter page, and then we can have a look at what the results are. Great. I love that that a lot of people are willing to ask for feedback and act on it. That's really, really good. Are there more people who want to submit these? So just to be clear, I'm looking for you to do the same as I just did. Go to the Mentimeter link in the chat and choose 1, 2, or 3 of these ways and select submit. And separately from this, make a more comprehensive plan about how you're going to act on this.
I've popped mine into the chat, Eric.
Thank you, Raphael.
My Mentimeter broke.
Oh, no. I think we have 11 responses so far. Want to see a little bit more before we move on. Love the comment in the chat. This is inspiring. I've decided I'm going to be a senior BA in the next 12 months. Love it. Let's see if we can get one more response before we move on. There we go. Great. So ask for feedback, work on solving complex problem, communicate well with a challenging stakeholder, mentor other BAs, impart high-level business knowledge, initiate a business process improvement. That's moved up now. This comes second place. Manage your own workload, build trust, take on larger projects, perform proxy responsibilities. Great. Thank you everyone for responding there. And like I said earlier, I want you to take this away and work on SMART goals. This is a development day, and if we're going to develop, we need to take action. So make a plan for how you're going to action this. Great. Now we can go to Q&A. Lorato, are you planning to host a Q&A, or should I just answer questions in the chat?
Awesome. Yes, we do have the questions. I think I've asked some of them. So one says, great career progression, Eric. When you were progressing in your career, did you negotiate the senior title change? I've been of the opinion that when a BA hits the 3-year mark, they progress to become intermediate. Am I projecting limiting beliefs? And that's from Masente. Great question.
Yeah, I touched on that earlier. I think it's very important to consider what we believe about ourselves, and if we have limiting beliefs, to work on those. And if you're currently in a work environment where they are not giving you opportunities to progress, I would be thinking about looking elsewhere for your next opportunity. But if there are opportunities internally in your company to take a step up in responsibility, I would be working on how can you present yourself in a way that makes a good case for why you should be promoted.
Cool. And I think the next question from Larissa will tie in nicely into that. It says, can you give some practical examples of what you did differently in that year to get from a 3 rating to a 5 rating?
Yeah, so one of them was the most popular action to take away, ask for feedback and act on it. So I believe the reason why I got downgraded from a 4 to a 3 during that calibration of the performance ratings was because I had not listened to feedback at a certain point and had negative feedback to do with that. And it was this manager who had heard about this feedback that probably, I'm reading between the lines, initiated that downgrade. So if you get feedback that is constructive and you don't act on it, then that's something that could hold you back. And so make sure you take feedback seriously, but also, like I said earlier, it's not all feedback that you need to act on. So if it's something like that, it would be good to probably discuss it with your line manager. Yeah, but generally, what I tend to do now is to ask my team for feedback for every iteration we do of the products we're working on. So for each new feature we add, I will ask my team for feedback on how well did I communicate requirements, how well did I support you guys in the development, implementation of it, and various questions like that. So just being on a continual learning cycle of improving yourself.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Another one from Masinte. I think, yeah, Masinte, you deserve something. Says, I think environment matters as well. But it's a comment. If you're given credit, even if it goes against the status quo, no one gets a 5 when it plays a big role as well. I agree with what you're saying about how you present yourself to your team and manager so your impact is seen and acknowledged. So it was just a comment based on some of the strategies that you shared.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think it's a common thing among BAs to forget about evidencing what we have done well. You know, we are not salespeople. We don't have necessarily those skills where we can sell something or market something very well. That's something I've actually worked on as part of self-employment to make sure I can sell my services. And yeah, it's something that is definitely worth investing some time in building those skills, how you can present yourself well, and to do it in a, you know, not in a superficial way, but to have evidence behind it, to have feedback that says, yes, this is what I've done that is above and beyond what I'm expected to do.
Okay, great stuff. There's lots of, I'm just worried about the time, but there's lots of positive feedback there, Eric. So when you get the chance, please do scroll through. Thank you, everybody. There is another question from Masindle again. Eric, when you got your 82% jump, were you establishing yourself as a thought leader on LinkedIn? What factors did you use to negotiate that percentage?
So to be very honest with you, I don't think my LinkedIn profile had much to do with that increase. It's more about being at the right place at the right time. I interviewed for over 10 companies in 2021, and the last offer I had was the best, and that was actually the only offer I had as well. I didn't get a job offer until the 10th. Roughly the 10th company that I interviewed for, and I got to second round interviews multiple times. I just didn't get a job offer, and then the last one I interviewed for was the salary with the highest salary, the job with the highest salary. So that's an encouragement to people who are currently looking for a job for their next role and are finding it difficult, that, you know, keep persevering. You know, it's also a two-way dialogue. It's not just about employer being happy with you. You also need to be happy with the employer and what they're offering you.
Okay, great stuff. think we need to move. We've got about 4 more questions. There's one from Nazmira, and I think it's interesting. How do you deal with the new role where you are told there is a lot of opportunity, but you cannot see this? How do you grow from this?
I'm not sure if I understand the question. Is it possible?
Nazmira, do you maybe want to maybe rephrase or ask the question for Eric directly?
Sure. Hi, Eric. So you in a new role in the department, and they stress that there's opportunity, there's growth, there's lots of opportunity for you, and you're sitting in a role and you can't really see this. You're doing the same thing all the time, and you're just working on documentation and not really seeing that growth or that opportunity to do other tasks that BAs do. So they stress that there is, but you don't see it. So what do you actually do? Do you find things? Do you inquire? Do you look elsewhere? Because this obviously demotivates you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand how a situation like that can feel demotivating. And there sounds like there is some dishonesty going on, that people are talking about a lot of opportunities when you can't see that. And so I would do a twofold approach if I was you, and think about how you can find opportunities proactively to grow in that role at the same time as looking somewhere else for a better role. Yeah, you don't want to get stuck in a job environment where you're limited and you don't feel like you can take opportunities to grow.
Awesome stuff. I'm gonna ask you the last 2 questions, but I'm gonna ask them together so then you can answer them same time. Eric, one is from Tyrone. The other day I was asked, how do you differentiate what you do when the role title business analyst is very generic? I think that's the one question. Maybe he wants, I suppose Tyrone wants to know what is your view on that question. And then another one says, we tend to joke in our team by saying everything the sun touches is your responsibility. So there's an expectation to do more than your main role. How does one manage clawing back to your main BA role when the other roles swallow up your time and still manage a balance, and then in brackets, psychological wellness?
I like that last. Yeah, I like that last question. There is a trap for us to go into, to start doing everything else than business analysis, and then we're not adding the value that we have been hired to add. And so in that situation, I would find a good way to say that, first of all, I need to prioritize my main job duties. And unless I do that, we're not going to meet our goals and objectives as a team. And so that's the first thing you need to focus on. And that's something my current line manager has helped me to do, that unless I get everything done that I need to do in my role, it's not good if I take on more responsibilities. But it's when I have done everything I need to do, that's the point where you can start adding more value, take on more responsibilities. So just to communicate that clearly with whoever is expecting you to do more and stretch yourself too thin, that first of all, you need to prioritize your main duties, what you have been hired to do.
Awesome. Thank you. Lerato, over to you. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Love the engagement.
Thank you, Eric. That was really informative. I think there's really great things to take away as advisors. And I think also I can tell you here that people can reach out to you for mentoring if they do need mentoring services. I do always encourage that you always need to work with people who know more than what you know. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we are just about to start our panel, but I think we do deserve a bit of a body break. We can go away, come back in 5 minutes. That will be 11:03. And then we can start with our panel. I will be introducing to you the facilitator for the panel right after the break. Thank you. Hi, everybody. We are back. We are back. We are back. We've got something exciting now where we're going to do the panel discussion. I hope everyone is back. You can send us a digital thumb if you are able to respond that you are back. Okay. So I just want to quickly introduce our facilitator, and then we can get into the discussion, right? Okay, our facilitator for the panel discussion is Mo Blessings, known as Mo. She's a seasoned business analyst with over a decade of experience across diverse industries, including service delivery, enterprise development, mining, tax consulting, and consumer goods. She's a certified business analyst professional, and her expertise lies in translating complex business requirements to actionable plans, driving strategic initiatives, and improving operational efficiencies. She has a proven record of delivering results and empowering organizations to achieve their goals. She's also a skilled trainer and facilitator, passionate about sharing her knowledge and expertise in business and business process engineering, in business analysis. More Blessings is dedicated to driving success and innovation with business analysis within the business analysis community. And with that said, please let us welcome Mo, and she will introduce our panelist. Thank you.
Thank you, Lerato. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to be facilitating the panel discussion, and we're going to be covering predictive analysis and decision support with a great emphasis on generative AI and its impact on business analysis. With me, I'm going to be joined with a team of experienced panelists. I was just looking at the profiles of those people, and I must say, I am excited to be speaking to these people. So the first panelist that we're going to be speaking to is Benedict Mashile. Benedict is an automation lead at Nedbank, and he's a versatile professional with experience as a robotics developer. He's also a systems analyst that specializes in insurance industry and the banking sector. He's a Java developer that focuses on telecommunications. He's also a software engineer for NGO clients in India. But he's not just, somebody that works. He has a life outside of work where he dedicates his weekends to volunteering as a mathematics tutor for grade 10 to 12 learners. I wish I had known Benedict last year when my daughter was in matric, but hey, I hope he helps a lot more other learners. But he's also driven by goals to excel in his career and contribute meaningfully to his community, society, and nation, and he enjoys reading and traveling in his leisure time. So let us welcome Benedict, the first panelist. The next panelist that I will be talking to is Yassine Patel. He's a senior business analyst at Saratoga. He's a seasoned business analysis professional, and he has over a decade of experience. He has an honors degree in information systems from Wits University, and he has done a lot of research in AI. And his latest one was to create efficiencies in the business analysis practices at Saratoga using AI. He's a thought leader, and he has been a speaker at one of the business analysis summits, so he's not a stranger to the IIBA community in South Africa. He has also served as an executive board member of the IIBA South Africa chapter, and he has had a lot of influence on the different initiatives and the vision of the chapter as a whole. He's dedicated to contributing and inspiring many people, which makes him, a very valuable panelist for us to be speaking to today. So welcome, Yassine. The next panelist is Caro Cuthbert. Caro is the director, founder, and owner of Kestrel Business Solutions. She has a lot of experience as a 3E and adherent implementation consultant. She has led many successful rollouts in London, Amsterdam, Brussels, Germany, and Japan that specialize in SQL, customizations, reporting for platforms such as Adherent, 3E, Tagetic, e-billing flow, cost budgeting tools. She holds a CBDA certification from the IIBA, and she has lectured in statistics, business analysis, and business analytics. So you can just see the level of experience that Caro has and how much she is actually bringing into this panel. So I'm looking forward to chatting to Caro. Can we please welcome Caro to the panel? Right. Last but not least, we have Ayanda Gebecha. He's a partner at Microsoft. He's a seasoned technology executive with over 2 decades of experience spanning business and technology roles. He currently serves as the GSI partner, development director in Microsoft's Africa Global Partner Solutions team. He leads the business design briefings and advises partner leadership on optimizing Microsoft partnerships for mutual success. In previous roles, he has been a director for data and AI. He has empowered enterprise customers to leverage their data effectively. Beyond business analysis, he is passionate about the responsible use of AI to address Africa's challenges and reflecting on his commitment to driving positive change on the region. You can just see how much he is committed to see what Africa can do. He holds a master's in commerce as well as a master's in business administration. So yeah, this panel is quite exciting. Welcome to the panel, Ayanda.
Thank you.
All right. So before we get into the discussion, I just want to remind everyone that this is not a presentation, right? This is a discussion that we're going to be having with these panelists. So in order for us to learn as much as we can and, get excited about this, let's ask as many questions as we can. They're not going to be preaching, they're not going to be presenting to us, but rather we want to have a discussion. So let's get those questions into the chat. Let's start thinking about, as they speak, let's think about what we're going to ask them, what it is that we want to know. Right. I'm going to get you started. I'm going to ask the first few questions just to get us warmed up, and then I'll take the questions from the rest of the attendees. Right. So I'm going to start with Yassine. Right. Lucky of the draw. Right. So, Yassine, we're talking about predictive analysis and decision support. Can you tell us what is predictive analysis and how does generative AI, get into this whole thing? What does it do within predictive analysis? What is it, doing? What is it transforming? What implications does this even have? But, let's start with the beginning. What is predictive analysis, Yassine?
Hi, everyone. Can you guys hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Sure. All right. So basically, predictive analysis is using AI to obtain all the context and data and all the information that you give it and predict what's going to happen. And you can imagine how useful this is to businesses. You can predict, your warehousing requirements, when you need to stock up on inventory. You can predict seasons for sales. In insurance, you can predict when it's rainy season, like it is in Cape Town, what type of claims are going to come through. And the value of such things. So that's basically predictive analysis, and generative AI really is useful in the sense because you can give it all the context, you can give it all the data, and you can create an efficiency in analyzing that data to predict such models. It uses statistical models and mathematical models to efficiently and much more efficiently and quickly to predict such outcomes.
Thank you, Yassine. Ayanda, maybe I'll call on you to add a little bit more to what Yassine has explained. How can generative AI be integrated into, everything that we do? How can we integrate this to enhance decision making and the different capabilities of a business? How do we draw generative AI? And especially for somebody who is, I think one of the questions that was asked earlier is if you're sitting in a business analysis role where you don't have access to decision makers, how can you then draw this thing into the things that we do and making an impact with it?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Firstly, Kate, can you hear me properly?
Yes, we can, Ayanda. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think, the Gen AI is a gift to especially people in these career paths, right? In this business, in a sense that if we allow it to be a product that works alongside us, and see it really as something that is going to enhance productivity in terms of the ability to scale. One of the big things that where we're starting to see it, paying dividends is the ability to consume large amounts of data. Depending on what kind of business problems you're trying to solve, some of the challenges, you need to consume large amounts of data. And I think Gen AI in this area is going to help us to focus on the things that matter by allowing AI to sift through vast amounts of data very quickly and give us insights very quickly, allowing us then to do the creative work, allowing us to do the more problem-solving work rather than the mundane tasks of gathering information and sifting through information and making sense of information. So I believe, when we can get to decisions faster. And also, I think, focus on the things that matter. In my own life, what I've seen in using Gen AI in problem solving is that it allows me to take off the mundane things in terms of going through information. One of its superpowers is summarization. And if you know how to prompt correctly with Gen AI, so as a business analyst as well, I think you have subject matter expertise in terms of what questions to ask. So your prompts are informed by your experience, by what you want to get out of it. They are much more powerful than somebody who's just playing around with it, simply because the same questions that I think you would ordinarily be driving yourself into problem solving. Now you use the totality of your experience in interrogating data. So to me, it's a tool that's going to help us scale. And we already see in terms of predictive analysis that it's helping us scale. It's helping us to avoid, even some biases in data. It's helping us to identify anomalies a lot quicker than it would be. It's really helping improve outcomes. But obviously, I think we're going to need to know where to apply this and where not to apply it, and also how to make it an effective partner and an effective assistant in what you do every day. So in terms of where we see it being effective, I think in consuming vast amount of data and making sense of it quickly and ensuring that we get to do the creative work.
Thank you, Ayanda. So what I'm hearing is this is something that we can use to help us in doing what we already do, just more efficiently, more effectively, and then we can do what the human needs to do, that the machine cannot do for us. We do the creative aspects of the work that needs to be done, and we can then take this as one of the tools. Just like we've always had all the different techniques, all the different tools, this is just another tool that we're adding onto our arsenal that's going to help us manage our time, manage other things, summarize things for us was one of the examples that you used, Ayanda. So it's just another tool that we're adding that just helping us to be more efficient, to do things better, get insights that we would not ordinarily get, or that, you know, would take us years and years maybe to actually get to. Right. So it's something that's creating opportunities, but anything that creates opportunities also comes with challenges. Carol, maybe I'll throw this one to you. Right. So what are some of the opportunities that the generative AI is presenting, you know, when it comes to decision support? But what are the challenges that it's also bringing into the space?
Okay. Firstly, can you hear me? More blessing?
Yes, we can, Carol.
Okay. So one of the biggest problems that we need to solve, just for background, I work in the UK legal industry. So when I talk about the applications and use cases, I'm talking about within that industry. So for AI, basically the opportunities are we've got a new tool to use to solve our complex problems. Like, for instance, we need to forecast in big law firms where to apply our resources, where to open a new office, which practice management areas. And we can use this in conjunction with other systems, traditional systems that we use for forecasting. So we basically use our large language models and integrate it with APIs to run and forecast based on the assumptions. So we feed in a lot of assumptions. Think of that as in your data prompt, very, very big areas of data. Then we also feed a few back years of data. And with a specific year, we run and check the actuals versus forecast. And because it's complex data and a human can't always feed back, we feed it back in the format of a heat map. So you can see the points of data. Then the subject matter expert says, yes, I'm eliminating the red, that's getting better, or that's not getting better, vote it up and down. And we continue in iterations until we're able to forecast as spot on with that amount of data. But the negatives, as you said, is that, you know, clients and data are confidential. So with AI, we can't just feed any of our data into a GPT that's going to be used by everyone. So the biggest challenge in law firms is keeping the data confidential. So that's why we train our own models, because we don't want the data of the clients and things to be shared. And the other big challenge is fragmentation. So we have all this data, but it's all over the place. And we need proper data lakes and data marts to get it in the right condition. And it has to be good quality data. So I'll stop there to give the others a turn.
Thank you, Carol. Yeah, that made it even more exciting. And I think you presented quite a few challenges with the opportunities, right? I'll circle back and we can discuss that a little bit more. But I'm going to give Benedict a chance so we can hear from him before we start circling back. So, Benedict, I've got a question for you, and I think it's one of the questions that's already been put into the chart. So, as a business analyst, how can you leverage on AI to improve the accuracy and the efficiency of your predictive models and your insights? I think Carol already touched on it, but maybe if you can add on the practicalities of how, or where do I even start? Somebody says they're a new business analyst, or I'm new to this AI thing. Where do I even start? How do I even start leveraging this thing, so that it can help me?
Cool, no, sure, thanks. So maybe let me start with, where do you start? So there are a lot of Gen AI out there. And the common ones that you can get even for free, and the free versions of them are very good, will be Google's Gemini. You can start there and just download it or access it online. Claude and ChatGPT. So those are like the main ones. So as an example, especially specific to the person who says no, you can actually test it with things that you know, assuming you don't know. As an example, let's take you say as a business analyst, maybe I just learned how to write a good BRS or user story. And then you just assume you don't know, and then to saying, let me go and type to say, assist me with writing a user story for logging into internet banking, and see the responses that are coming. Someone talked about query prompting, and which is the skill of asking questions. So the more you ask questions, because sometimes the answer might not that be good, and not necessarily that the Gen AI is not good, it's because of the question that you pose. So as you play around with it, with the things that you know as a start, then you'll start developing a pattern of what it's doing at the background. So I think for me, that is basically the start. And the key message, especially when you're new to Gen AI, is I like the Microsoft vision. They call it Copilot. It's because the assumption, and it's true, that you are still the pilot, you are still the master. So you have to verify everything that's coming out of it. Not everything will be perfect, but you're still gonna get those and make a decision that you use it or enhance it. So I will pause there.
All right. Thanks, Benedict. So what I'm hearing is you're still driving, right? As much as you know, you have all these tools, it's not taking away what you need to do. And what I'm hearing is it's also not a silver bullet. Not everything that you're going to get is going to be correct. And it doesn't mean that it's always the right thing that you're going to get. So you have to do a lot of legwork. You have to test what it is that you're getting. And I think Carol also touched that on that with, you know, when you feed in data, you have to compare that to, you know, the actuals versus, you know, what you're getting out of this. And I see you've got your hand up. Do you want to add something?
I wanted to add something. I think Benedict raises a very good point in saying that the free internet-based language models are absolutely brilliant. And I encourage everybody to get better at prompting and actually try it. I think you will notice that as a subject matter expert, you get a lot of value out of it. But one of the key challenges with the internet-based ones as well is when you're working with data. So one of the great things with AI, in terms of data privacy now, one of the great things with data and AI is the ability to create what is called synthetic data, where you anonymize, you know, the data so that the data set is enough for you to do meaningful work, but without necessarily having some of the personally identifiable information and some information that could lead to privacy, you know, concerns, depending on which industry you're on. So this is something that's really, really great. And one of the things to just be wary of in terms of, and this is you're going to use your discretion, what you throw at these models, because they keep learning, right? What you throw at them becomes very key in terms of you deciding, is this information that would ordinarily be in a public domain? If it is, then you can throw it into the public language models, because if they consume it, it's public information anyway. But once you start thinking about, you know, information that could be containing, you know, IP for your whatever organization you're working on, then we need to start thinking about, you know, privacy and all of those things. But there are tools that help you do that. But it's just something I thought about when Benedict was speaking. That's something that just came to mind. The public models, brilliant. I use them almost daily. But be careful what you throw at it.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. So 100%. So as an example, what he just said, and I was just thinking about the new person who's joining as a BA, to say if you are at work, like in my company, so there is a target Gen AI, which is Copilot. So for any work related, when I'm at work, so I'll use Copilot. So as an example now, if I were to go to the Gen AI whatever I put, I make it to be generic because I know it's not protected. So I'm not going to put my NetBank company information on Gemini. But when I'm at work, because I understand the ethics of the Gen AI, the Copilot, what they've logged, so that I can be even more specific because I know that data is not even leaving NetBank going to Microsoft. That's very key. Thanks, Ayanda.
All right. Carol? You can go ahead, Carol.
Absolutely, yes. I just wanted to say, okay. In the legal industry, the biggest thing is actually data privacy. So yes, that's why we train our own large language models. But in general, I would also say you can use the normal models absolutely, and they work very well. And what I also lecture at the Rhodes Business School, and I tell my students it's about the prompter, as someone earlier said, about what questions you ask. And if you provide the large language model with structure and detail of the answers you are expecting as a business analyst, and maybe even the table columns and things like that, then you get better results. So just to put it out there that yes, you have to keep the data confidential, but secondly, if you get bad data, then it's probably because you're not prompting correctly, and you must work on your prompting skills. And there are cheat sheets with like basic prompting skills. But this is the area, it gets back to you as the analyst. You're probably not using the tool correctly.
All right. So maybe you guys can help us on how we can actually use the tools correctly. But I'm assuming that's a subject that's going to take quite a bit of time for us to get to a point where everybody can actually use the tools correctly. But before I go into the questions that I have, what are some of the ethical considerations? I think you guys keep touching on ethics, on data privacy and things like that. So as a BA or as somebody that's prompting these AIs, what are some of the ethical considerations that I must take into account before I start interacting with those things? As BAs, we're expected to be ethical. You wouldn't necessarily go around telling people about, the things that are happening in your company or at your client's company. So how do we carry that into this new normal that we having? Who wants to go? Yassine, I'm going to give this to you because you have done
Sure thing.
research around this.
Yeah, sure. Yes, no, for sure. So ethical considerations in regards to AI is key. Mainly because AI is not a silver spoon. It doesn't, you as a BA, you don't want to take that solution or that response right away straight to a customer. That for me would be unethical. And again, what was touched on was putting in confidential information into an open AI model. So, for example, in the legal case study, you want there's private information, and likewise for consulting firm with client data, you don't want to just put all the confidential information out there. So those are some ethical considerations. Yeah, and I think here it's key that you need to use the human element here, because that's where it's distinguished, right? So taking that information and reviewing it, making sure that it aligns to what you asked it for, that it's not just giving you a random answer, because even with Gen AI, the information is limited to the whatever's on the internet until 2021. And if you ask it the same question multiple times in a row, it will generate different answers. So reviewing it, I think, is also key in that sense. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So you always have to review. I think this is something that's coming up a lot. It's not the Bible, for lack of a better word. You have to review whatever it is that you're getting. I have a question here which says, which AI tool is the best for predictive models? Anyone can take this one. Benedict, you
I
want to take
wouldn't.
it?
Yeah, maybe I'd
I
answer it
understand.
differently. I get this question a lot. Uh, it all depends. I think most of these large language models and also machine learning tools are really, really, fantastic when it comes to what they can do. The capabilities are very similar. And across many of these, tech companies and hyperscalers, the capabilities of models, I don't think that's what differentiates them. What differentiates a lot are the people that is the how, right? In terms of what you're implementing. I think to me that becomes the differentiator. You can take one of the top tools in some of the global companies, and if the people writing models, the people training models, and the people that are defining the end from the beginning really know and grounded in terms of what they do, I think that is the differentiating factor. Training data, and I stress this, more than ever before. Training data is key. Grounding models is key. What data is it grounded on? Because the better your training data, the more diverse your training data, the better the outcomes. I wouldn't compare. I wouldn't take two different companies that provide large language and go get them head to head. I will say, the quality in terms of what you feed in, and the quality in terms of what the output that you expect to get is what I've seen practically in the field as becoming the differentiator. I mean, I'd love to tell you here Microsoft is better than anybody else. But what I've seen in models is your training data set, is the models that you're writing, and also how do you catch bias in the models, in order to improve the quality of what you get out. I'll let the other colleagues as well weigh in on this.
Right, Benedict, I'll come to you then. Yasin, I see you have unmuted yourself, so you can go after Benedict.
Okay, cool, sure, thanks. Yeah, just to support, in fact, there are even sites already comparing them. And normally what you'll see, you won't find one which is the best in everything, So like Anda was mentioning, it's just like in almost anything. You hardly have like one best for all. I know that sometimes it just be a shortcut to say, I want to use which one must I go for? I think maybe the person is asking that which one to start with. So there's not like a specific one that is the best in everything. Like I said, ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude, like those ones, they are the ones that they're being compared between the three. So they will always vary. In math, advanced math, one is number one, the other one is number two. So there's not like a strict one. So you just have to get one or two or three and just give them the same questions for yourself. So I'll just encourage those people to basically play around with them. Same question, like I mentioned, you play and get the different results. And you might see that maybe one give you the result, but to another person, we can always debate the whole day. So someone will say Claude, ChatGPT, the paid version and stuff like that. So there's not really one, but you just go and play around with them and see which one really help you, where you get the most out of it.
All right. Yasin, do you still want to say something? I see Caro has a hand up as well.
Yeah, sure. Quickly from my side. Yeah, I think I second that Benedict it's experimenting with the different models. The pace that AI tools are coming out at is wild, and there's new tools every day. But each of these tools, besides the top three, have different purposes and objectives and functions. And it's worth the exercise to compare the outcomes, compare the features, the integration capabilities. Does it fit in with your organization? Are you using Microsoft in your organization, or are you open to other models? The pricing, these tools are calling their own pricing. There's free versions, but there's a reason that there's paid versions, right? If you get a team version of ChatGPT, you get some privacy benefits, for example, for your data. There's things like generating images, PowerPoint slides, looking through spreadsheets, mind maps. There's multiple use cases for specific tools that not all tools can accomplish. So the Gen AI tools are very similar, but you do get very specialized tools in this AI space as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Yassine. Carol, do you want to add onto this?
Yes, absolutely. There's new tools coming out all the time. I think Mistral came out yesterday, and Meta says they're going to have something that will rival ChatGPT by November, so we'll have to watch it. But to me, the point is two things. I think agentic workflow, you have to really tell it the steps and outline, and then get the models to check other models. We were talking about that earlier. So going forward, everybody's talking about this collaborative, where we're going to get all the AI to work together to come up with better sort of, not intelligence. I don't like using that word because it's ultimately just vectors, but still, if the models are checking each other, then the results are more accurate. And finally, just also to say, someone mentioned it earlier, your role as the human is to validate whatever you get. So nothing that you get from any model, you validate it. I see some of the questions that came up, people asked about the research and plagiarism. It's your responsibility to validate what you have. Even in legal, we use it for research, and 70% of our research, but we validate absolutely everything. So it's a tool like any other. It's not a brain. It's nothing magic. You are the human. You use multiple tools. You validate it. You check references. That's your responsibility.
Thank you. I have a question here from Tyrone. It says, with the evolution of generative AI from purely synthetic data creation to more sophisticated multimodal systems, such as incorporating analytical calculations and then using the output in responses, there's often confusion and misuse of terms like Gen AI as mere buzzwords. How then do you effectively communicate what generative AI truly is and its specific functionalities? To add on to that, how do you explain the integration of multimodal capabilities within this framework to ensure clear understanding and proper usage of these terms among stakeholders and the general public? Right, so that's a mouthful, but essentially they're wanting to know, how do you communicate what generative AI is and its specific functionalities, and how you can make sure that there's a clear understanding and it's used properly within the different stakeholders and the general public. Ayanda?
Yeah, maybe let me take the first part of it. I think Gen AI has come to really took center stage in the last 2 years. And to many people, it does make it seem like AI is new. And we've had AI for decades in terms of the ability to bring machine learning capabilities. Yes, deep learning. Machine learning made a lot of progress in terms of how we train models. I've seen it in many cases, for anomaly detection. So you train it in terms of what's normal, and then you throw enough data, and it begins to tell you what's not normal. We've used machine learning in fraud analytics. I mean, the financial services for decades, right? In terms of identifying unusual patterns and unusual behavior in driving that. And then deep learning came to really leverage, neural networks, kind of like we have in our brains, in order to do that. But what Gen AI did, it came, to provide reasoning over unstructured data, because previously we've relied on structured data, right? When your training data becomes structured. How I explain Gen AI came through deep learning to learn vast amounts of data. I mean, right now, it is internet aware, right? Every single thing that's on the internet, these Gen AI models are used as large language models in order to make sense of it. And I'm one of the people who believe that these large language models are not as smart as we think they are, right? At the end of the day, it's a mathematical equations behind them, right? And they make sense of it, and they bring results, and they hold context in order for us to generate new information, out of them. Hence, we call Gen AI. Whether you're generating text or you're generating sound or video or images, as we now can, if we separate, the cognitive services that have been there in AI since probably 3 decades ago, into Gen AI. Gen AI allows us to leverage everything we've had in terms of AI, including semantic search, because that's what it does in the back end in terms of consuming this vast amounts of data, in order for it to give it kind of like the human factor in terms of language and how we interact with it. So that's what we've done with Gen AI. We've brought in conversational intelligence, kind of like how you and I speak. We've brought in language into models that in the back end have leveraged machine learning and other aspects of AI for a very long time. So that is how we really land Gen AI. We focus on the word generative, that we are leveraging it to generate net new content. And I think the operative word there is net new content, right? Because if Gen AI all it did was do search like we've done before and then just put the search results in front of you, it wouldn't be Gen AI. It would be just, another search. The fact that it's generating net new content is is how we should explain it to whoever is whoever the business people or that are around us, maybe as BA and tech professionals. I'll allow other panelists maybe to weigh in as well.
All right. Anyone who wants to add onto what Ayanda has said around this question? All right. There was a question around plagiarism, and I think Caro touched on plagiarism. The question was, is there a plagiarism risk when using these tools? And I think the question was answered, that the risk is still there, and it's up to you to then verify and check everything that you're getting. There is a question that says, what constitutes the responsible use of Gen AI? This is piggybacking on Shabana's presentation, where she mentioned the carbon footprint of AI. So what can we say is the responsible use of those tools? Benedict, you can go.
Okay. Responsible use, especially if it's work related, for me will be number one for productivity. I think everyone, what you're basically stressing is to saying you have 8 hours of work and you can only do this much. Now, responsible use of it is to saying, what can I do more for this organization with the 8 hours that I have? So the things that you used to take you, whatever you use a story, that will take you 2 weeks. Now, this will give you an opportunity to do it maybe in 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And yeah, that's number one. And then the other number two is also looking at things like ethics. I think someone mentioned it. So anything that is non-ethical will be the opposite of responsible use of it. Like there will be, like someone give an example of like schoolwork, plagiarism. You know that when you submit basically to a professor, to a lecturer, to a teacher for that homework, you're saying, I've done my work and then this is my submission. But now you just going on ChatGPT and then you say, this is what is your take about whatever the impact of COVID? And you just put it there and you take that thing, you pass it to your lecturer. So that will be opposite of basically irresponsible use of this technology.
Right. Thank you, Benedict. Any other thoughts around the responsible use before I move on to the next question?
Yes.
One of the things that, when it comes to the responsible use, right? For me, it talks to the issue of transparency, talks to the issue of fairness, as well as bias mitigation. That's one of the things that it's very important to tackle, is the issue of bias, right? And this comes from the premise that we understand that as human beings, we inherently biased, all of us, right? And the more we acknowledge our bias, the more we can mitigate against our bias. I think that is why in many instances, the diversity of training data set when you're using AI becomes very key, because you can go down a very narrow path very quickly if you're asking the things that you're familiar with and working with people that maybe share the same views as you, and you can guide AI to a particular outcome, and your bias is transferred to the output of the work that you do. It needs intentionality in terms of catching bias. I mean, even bias in hiring practices, HR people and recruiters will tell you, you leave people to their own devices, they will build a company with people that sound like them, that look like them, that, maybe, they do the same thing, they have the same things. Similar in this world of AI, the ability to catch bias and to be mindful of bias is super critical in terms of the output of the work that you're going to have, and the quality of the work that you're going to have. So it's something that we just need to keep, top of mind whenever we are embarking on these, not just Gen AI, but AI in general.
Thank you, Ayanda. Carol?
Absolutely. I just want to reiterate what Ayanda said. To me, the two things are quality. So the quality of your data, if you've got bias in your data, obviously you're going to have, that's not responsible use. And secondly, disclosure. You always have to disclose that you are using an AI tool, especially if you are doing any work for a client in that circumstance. So there's responsible, make sure your quality, disclose what you're doing, all your methodology, and then multiple models. So make sure that you've done the same thing on multiple models, and therefore your predictive answers are more sound.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a lot. I have one more question. We're running out of time. And it's from Andile. It says the panel has spoken about the importance of prompting skills within the BA role. Within the BA, tripped over my tongue there. The panel has spoken about the importance of prompting skills within the BA role. Should we also familiarize ourselves with AI builders or coding or both? So as a BA, where do we draw the line? What is it that we're supposed to know, and what kind of becomes overkill?
Okay.
All right, Carol, you go first, and then Benedict, you can go.
Okay. I'll just say what I quickly tell all my students, and that is, I would love to have them all to have some basic SQL. So there are cheat sheets, and I give them this, and actually those commands are the same as when I started out. I can't say when, but long time ago. So I give them basic SQL cheat sheets, and then that helps with all the languages, Python, anything. It just enables your own prompting. And yes, you can use the tools to code, obviously, but if you have a bit of an understanding, and to learn some SQL commands is not a lot. So that would be my advice.
All right.
Cool.
Benedict?
No, sure, thanks. So especially, I think some earlier they talk about continuous learning. So the one that I'll also encourage the BAs or everyone, it's basically to learn some technical skills. So as Carol gave an example with SQL, I would even say just programming skills, whether it's Python, Java, just some programming language skills, technical skills, and even for data science, just have understanding of data, let's take machine learning or artificial intelligence, meaning supervised, unsupervised. Someone was talking about those things. Just at least starting with understanding the basics of those technical terms. And then the other one that everyone was just talking about it's like AI ethics. So even bias, even bias, it also can be implicit and explicit. So what I mean is that they must also be aware. This is the point of maybe for BA to be domain expert. So when you talk about they say quality of data, what does it mean? And how do you know? Because everyone says give it big data, and that big data might also be biased that we are not even aware. So I think for the ability to understand that the results that are coming out there, what models to be used to be checked, or what we call features, to say what features derive this solution. So for them, understanding that high level I think is a good start. And yeah, I think for that, that's what I wanted to start with, having a broad understanding of these terminologies of artificial intelligence.
All right.
Yeah.
Ayanda, I see you unmuted yourself, but before I come to you, there's one more question that came up, and I think I would be remiss if I don't ask this question, because I think every BA on this forum is asking this. So it says, with reference to the BA box area of requirements analysis and design definition, what Gen AI tools can be used to simplify the task of modeling, verifying, validating, and tracing requirements? So Ayanda, as you're adding to what Caro and Benedict have just said, can you also try and address this?
Let me try address it by talking about prompting, right? So I think we once you get training, I think you can go on LinkedIn. I think there's tons of trainings on prompting. You will start to realize how powerful it is. And I'm gonna connect it back to the question just now, right? One of the principles, there's 4 major principles of prompting. One is when you're writing your prompt, set the goal. What do you want the model to do? Once you set the goal, and then set the context, why, right? Why do you want it, and what is involved, and how it can work it. And then 3, depending on what you're doing, give it the source. Sometimes we don't want the model to go and find things in other places. We want to give it the source. You working on a document, you working on a project, you've got source documentation, you ground it. It's sometimes called grounding. You ground it by giving it the source to say, focus on this, use this information, use this information. And then you give it the expectation. So you've given it a goal, you've given it context, you've given it the source, and then you give it expectation, and then you can tell it. You can also tell, I think, if we come back to the question, right? You can also tell it, hey, and whether it's Copilot or a Gemini or any of them, you are a senior business analyst in a banking environment in the South African context that is working on fraud case in this state. Can you see? You've given it a persona, your model. You've told it what it is, and immediately you tell it that, it takes that persona. And then you can tell it what you want to get out of it, right? You tell it that I would like to simplify our task in modeling. I want to validate tracing requirements. I want to do this. And your prompt is now so rich. And then this is another one that's a game changer. And then you tell it at the end, please ask me any clarifying questions that will help you to give me what I want more precisely. And most often than not, the model will take what you've given it, will then start to ask you some clarifying questions because you've opened the door. And then it's amazing what will happen after that, right? So let's not limit it to, hey, can you just write a poem for me? I want to read my daughter a bedtime story. No, use your years of experience in terms of what you get into it. You'll be amazed in terms of what you get out of it.
All right. So we out of time. I see, like, I would want the conversation to keep going. There is, I think, so much more that we could learn. So I've learned a lot just listening to you guys. And I think the important thing, somebody commented here, is he or she thought that as BAs would be replaced by AI. But what you guys have just confirmed is we're not being replaced. We just, getting a bigger tool, a better tool. We're still drivers, and we should be transitioning into a role of how do I use this tool to make my role as a business analyst better? How do I use my years of experience, everything else that I know as a BA? How do I ask the right questions? Just like when we go to stakeholders, you need to know the questions to ask. All the different techniques that we're already using, we're taking that and we're just applying it onto an additional tool. Essentially, that's what I learned. And the garbage in, garbage out still applies. What you feed in is what you get back. So you really need to know what it is that you're feeding in, right? So as we're concluding, I'm going to give you guys a minute or so to just give us a parting shot. Give us something that you really think we really, really need to know. I know you don't have time. In a minute, can you give us just that one last thing? I'm going to start with Carol, then we're going to go to Benedict, Ayanda, and then Yassine, you will go last.
Okay, so I think the same things that we've been saying all day. It's all about the prompting. It's a tool. It's not, it's not replacing you. It's assisting you. In future, I think the AI is going to give us confidence ratings and say, I'm 70% sure, I'm 80% sure. That also helps us. And yes, ask the tool questions. So often if you ask it, are you sure? Or, continuous prompting improves the results. So everybody just really learn your prompting, learn what it is. It's just vectors. It's not replacing you, but it assists you. And you need to work with as I say, the times are changing. So you need to set sail.
Cool. No, sure. Thanks. For me, I was saying use this Gen AI as a tool to start. But what is key, like I said, that you are still a master. So you have to go deeper in learning and understanding. Because if you want to master in the world of artificial intelligence, so go LinkedIn, get formal education, read even a book. But this will always help you as a start, because if you are not going to be spending that time, that means you won't be a master. So what is very critical, you are still going to grab a lot of information. As much as it simplifies, it summarizes for you. So you must still learn the best so that you can always be an expert in the decision making. So the key is that you have to develop those skills that you'll be key in the decision making, because you have learned, you have accumulated a lot of knowledge, you can validate this. So cross-validation, it is key. Thank you.
Randa, Ayanda, you can go.
Yeah, somebody once wrote an article titled, these large language models are dumber than your neighbor's cat. And they're not smart at all. We might think they're smart. We are smart. We still, I believe, hold the cognitive abilities beyond what these AI tools can do. Yes, they help us scale. They help us consume large amounts of data very quickly. They help us. I think let's hold on to that word. They help us. Try them, use them. Try to break them if you may. But it's your ability to be more productive. And I usually tell people, don't be afraid of AI. Be afraid of a business analyst who sits next to you that's going to use AI to be better than you.
Thank you, Ayanda. Yassine?
Sure. Yeah, I think in closing, I would like to say that it's so important to understand, what is AI, the different types of AI, and what's the different objectives and purposes of each of these tools. I mean, in this discussion, we spoke about generative AI that can create content. We touched on predictive AI that uses historic information, and even past that is prescriptive AI that goes beyond predicting the future, but also suggests actions from those predictions. So understanding the basics, and then I would suggest experimenting. So, you know, maybe if you don't have an opportunity to use it in your workplace, as business analysts, we can use BA techniques in our personal lives, and so can we can use AI in the same sense. So use it to predict your shopping list, use it to design your new lounge. There's tools all over the show. So get comfortable with it, because there is a little bit of a learning curve. Not all AIs are created equally. Yeah, and then I would also like to say that AI doesn't only affect us, it affects all roles, and we as BAs it's a dynamic environment. So we definitely get involved in different places of the business, and it could, you know, somebody could be capturing data from an invoice manually, and they could use an AI tool to automatically OCR, automatically upload that information. And that does not mean that they are no longer required in the organization. That just means that they have a tool that can better empower them. And as we create better processes and better solutions for business problems, the key is still to understand the problem, and AI is a potential solution, or even a potential assistance in specific areas in a business process. And once we understand that, we can then even create solutions using AI for different roles and different parts of the organization, for data analytics, for capturing, for anything, and for any industry. So if we can understand how we can use these AI tools, we can create AI solutions. And I think that's really a next step for us. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Yasin. Thank you to the panelists. You guys have been great. You know, we just don't have time, but there's a lot of positive comments, and people saying how much they have learned, and people echoing what you guys are saying. So you've done a great job with this, and you have made me look like I actually knew what I was talking about. So thank you very much. Lerato, back to you.
Thank you so much. Most certainly, more blessings. We have learned so much out of this session. I think if time allowed, there was still so much more to talk about. I do want to ask Morongwa to come through before I actually do our closing. Morongwa, please come through with announcements.
Okay, thank you, Lerato. I think we are over time, so I'm not going to make a lot of announcements, but the key one, guys, thank you so much for, especially to our thought leaders. This was really a wonderful session for me. I think we've learned a lot. One of the key things, we've got a Business Analysis Summit coming up for those of you who do not know. It's a big conference, and I think just after listening to this, who knows, we might be inviting you guys to this conference. So conference is coming up from the 4th to the 6th of November. But yes, please look out on social medias for more information. I am also posting a link around about the summit itself if you want to know more information. The early birds tickets are already out. If you haven't seen them on LinkedIn, it's there. But again, on the, what do you call it? If you go to the summit website, you'll also find it there. And for please note that we will share the slides. The presenters or the speakers for today have agreed that we can share the slides. So please look out. We will share in case you need more information. I think it's going to be more helpful for all of us. And for any other queries, you can send to the professional development mailbox, which I'll post here. But most of you guys should have received information around that. But other than that, please go on our website as well. We've got lots of cool events and programs that are taking place on a weekly basis, which I think are awesome and that will be beneficial for most of our community members. I think, Lerato, that's all. I'll hand back over to you.
Here's my video. Oh, there. Thank you, Mo. I want to thank our speakers. We are really grateful for your willingness to share your expertise and insights. We really had wonderful presentations from you, and I think our community has taken quite a lot of wisdom and a lot of tools to bank in their toolbox. And I'm also grateful to our attendees. We appreciate your enthusiasm and active participation with your comments and your questions. And all of this made this a very good experience. And we look forward to engaging with you again in future events. And please do follow us on our LinkedIn page and look out for all these other exciting what do you call it, the things that we have. You'll see them all as we post them on LinkedIn. And then where we are now, I think we are really over time. Apologies for that, but it was worth it. I just want to leave you with a quote that I use. It's a personal quote that I subscribe to. We are what we repeatedly do, excellence, and then it's not, but inherit. So with that said, I want to wish you guys a good weekend and yeah, a good weekend. Thank you for participating in this Professional Development Day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lorato.
Thank you so much. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Did you please stop the recording?